study a lot, and some students study very little, and some students study but cannot remember all the things that they study. So, what are the reasons behind, even after omnivorous study of all subjects, even after sitting and studying all the subjects all throughout the day, we cannot remember everything properly. So this needs to consider, and here lies the scientific approach of studies. What are the scientific approaches of studies? Today, I am going to elaborate all these things first. First, that you need to study. You need to study what? You need to study your subject. You have the content, you have your books, you have your question papers, you have your missions, you have all the attentions, but still you study in such a manner that you are just lost in wilderness. So now I am giving you a comprehensive guidance towards studying properly. Studying properly requires a plan. For example, today you are studying for 3 hours at a stretch. Now, what are you studying there in 3 hours? In 3 hours, if you are studying a subject, so for example, you are studying biology. So, what chapter you are studying there? So, you are studying a particular chapter. So, you need to study a particular chapter 3 hours at a stretch. And if you have completed the portion of the chapter, suppose a chapter is too long, you cannot continually study the full chapter within these 3 hours. So you need to study 3 hours, and you have to just cut short in 2 or 3 parts. A chapter should be cut short in 2 or 3 parts. You are to study when completed, one chapter is complete, when a portion subdivided groups of the 3 groups. Suppose a group of a chapter is completed, you need to study again within that 3 hours. So suppose you are studying a particular chapter, suppose for example ecology. If you are studying ecology, then you have to study the first part of ecologies. If you have just subdivided that chapter into 3 groups, the first group should be studied 3 hours at a stretch, repeat after repetitions. And keep in mind that repetition is the only conditions for memory. For example, when a person just making a journey in the bus, if we are sitting just by the side of a passenger and we have started discussions, talking, sometimes we get very much familiar and friends, but even after some days we cannot recognize that persons because there is a lack of repetitions actually a kind of conditions, mental conditions that help in finding out, recalling and retrieving the memory. So recall and retrieval, all these 2 things that reside within the memory come only through repetitions. So you have to repeat. Repeat what? So repeat the same things when you are sitting for 3 hours at a stretch and dividing a chapter into 3 groups, and after 3 subdivided parts are just studied 3 hours at a stretch repeatedly, then you will be able to know the pros, every details, every minute details of the chapter, and you will be able to decipher the subject. So keep in mind that you have to accommodate the ideas first. New learning is accommodated in the old learning. But if you are too good in a particular chapter, then new learning is quite challenging. So mind is such a thing that new learning does not come automatically. So you have to accommodate the old learning with new learning. New learning is accommodated only by means of a repetition of a particular point. So, when a chapter is subdivided into three groups, and you are studying at a stretch of each and every group for 3 hours a day, repeat and repeat, and then going into the questions, then you will be able to keep the things in your memory. So memory will work only when you have repeated a particular chapter nearly 10 to 20 times. So this is the particular field where the students do not give any attention. They go on studying one chapter and another. Just they are just taking ideas of every new chapters, just taking every minute details. They are just concentrating upon the question papers and questions paper, which particular questions does arise, does come in the entrance test. So first of all, forget all questions papers. Just go to study the first chapter first, but and second chapter second. When you are learning the first chapter and you are subdividing that chapter into groups, units of 3, and giving every 3 hours for the every part, subdivided part, repetitions after repetitions, then you will be able to accommodate these ideas into your mind, into your memories. So your memories will recall and retrieve that learning easily, and it will find a permanent place in the memory. So you have to study not quite a lot at a time, but you have to just sit and study, go carefully only a little portion, and just after accommodations, the for accommodation of ideas for some days, it will be assimilated into the old ideas. So all these two ideas will synthesized in the brain, and the brain will work for the further study. So until and unless you do these things, your brains will never incorporate those ideas. And in here, the students, even after studying a lot, could not do much when the entrance test appears. They do miserably fail in the examinations, because they know that their mind is full of random ideas. It is so big in size, in quantity, that they cannot exactly and minutely point out a thing from their memory. So all things are stored, but they are not in proper folder. And when they are just hammered at the particular moment when they need to come, they cannot do anything at all. And second thing, how to study. This is the first thing, that you need to study 3 hours at a stretch, and in these 3 hours you have to study only a portion of a chapter for 3 hours, repetitions after repetitions, and you have to study in a particular hour. For example, if you are sitting today at 8:30 o'clock in the morning, you started learning at 8:30 o'clock in the morning. So if you study today at 8:30 o'clock in the morning, then you have to study in the 8:30 o'clock in the next day. So this will prepare your mind for the further study. So because at the moment when there 8:30 will come, just every day at 8:30, your mind will get ready for learning. So preparation of mind, so readiness of learning, not merely a kind of emotional idea. Readiness of learning is not merely a psychological boost. Readiness of learning, not merely the experience of earlier ideas, not merely what you have already learned, but it also a kind of hammering of the just brains, the strings of the nervous neurological sense, that it strings it is a harping on the nervous strings, so that your mind automatically get prepared at the moment 8:30 o'clock appears. So it starts at the moment. So you have to maintain the particular moment. Suppose someone gets study. Someone sits studying at 8:30 o'clock today and tomorrow at 9 a.m. And the student thinks that he will just his studies will come to completion at 10 11:30 o'clock, and uh, because at the time moment at the 3 hours expiration. But today I will sit at 8 9 o'clock, and I will expire my studies at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. But no, this won't do at all. If you are studying, so inner discipline is necessary. Unless you get an inner disciplines, all the organizations of knowledge gets synthesized in your brain would automatically grow in such a situations that it will waken up, it will wake up the nervous system, it will wake up the whole mind, that ultimately you will serpent yourself every day. But today you are studying at 8:30 and tomorrow at 9 o'clock, this will just destroy the nervous system, because the mind won't work at that moment. So keep in mind regular study. If you are studying for 3 hours a day, in the morning at 8:30 o'clock and 7:30 in the evening, and 1:30 in the noon, at daily noon, then you have to maintain the same thing every day. If you maintain the same thing every day, but dividing the chapters and inner disciplines are growing up in you, then there will be no problem. So today I have just given you an idea of how you should study scientifically about your NEET preparations. Actually, all preparations in the world should be done scientifically. So plans are executed, plans should be made properly. So appropriate attentions and plans are not given, then you are in wilderness. So even if you are too intelligent, you cannot do justice to your potentialities unless you study properly. Here comes the role of pedagogy, the scientific study of human mind, and scientific studies of human mind, preparing and studying subjects and getting ideas from it. So learning and education gets complete when it is viewed from a scientific point of view. Thank you very much for